and then just sat behind a desk working, your focus shifts in life, and your priorities change.
1,000,000%. Yeah.
You know, as you need to do adulting, and that's just not something you're used to. Welcome back to the Lose to Win podcast with myself, Josh, and Jack. No Ben this week, but we do have a guest in his absence, a fellow Blue, Jack's teammate, a member of the Blues, I should say.
Yeah.
Harry Reid, mate. How are you doing, Harry, mate? Or
Hello.
H, however you want to be called.
Yeah, people started calling me H from Steps. Just didn't really get a choice of that one.
Didn't think about it that way.
No, I know.
I was more thinking that every Harry in football I've ever known, it seems to be goes to H. And anyone talks about Harry, it's always H. So.
Apparently, it's just only good players that get the H tag. That's why.
Harry Arthur.
Right. That's it. But no, I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
How has Harry Maguire had the H tag then?
I just big head, isn't it?
Why not? Slip through the net.
Anyway, mate. Sorry, Harry, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks very much. Yeah, it's nice to be on. I've been trying to catch these. I didn't realise there were things that you posted in the unofficial chat one day. So as soon as I saw that, I kind of podcast.
Well, you're new to the league. We'll give you a pass on it. You know?
Yeah, that's it. But there's loads of stuff going on in there. So this being one of the many things. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, pleasure to have you, mate. Thank you so much for coming on short notice and filling in for Ben, who is in production of whatever's going on. Busy time for him. Busy time of the year for Ben. So yeah, thank you, mate. We do appreciate it.
Very much so.
No problem.
How are you doing, then, Jack? How's your leg and your knee?
So I had an MRI on Sunday.
Yes.
So that was.
I forgot about this.
Yeah, so I had the appointment last week and got twisted and poked and turned and all sorts going on with it. And he said, yeah, the twisting's fine, but we definitely need an MRI. I thought I was there for the MRI. So I misunderstood from the physio when they said about booking it. So he's like, yeah, we need to get you in for an emergency one. I was like, oh, that's what I thought was here today. And he's like, no. And when he said emergency, I thought, okay, maybe this afternoon, half an hour. And he's like, somebody will be in contact. It could be a couple of weeks.
Oh, no.
And then I got a phone call on the Friday while I was driving saying there's an opportunity space come up on Sunday. Would you want to come in? It was like 12:30 on Sunday, whatever it was. I was like, let's do it. And I've now had a call to say the specialist wants to see you on Tuesday coming. So hopefully I'm at a point now I can actually get an answer of exactly what's going on and find out what's next. I'm massively missing the football, but after kind of supporting and helping with my son's football last night, so I'm an assistant coach for his team. We were doing some little drills and stuff. The boys were doing some drills and bits and pieces were set up for them. And a few times the head coach wanted to kind of show an example, and I had to like feed him a good strong pass and things like that. And I was like, a bit uncertain about this, and there's still a real nervousness around it at the moment. I can't even, at this point, sadly, I can't even imagine myself playing football right now. Yeah, which is still a good thing because I'm being super cautious with it. I can't afford to take a back step with it, but it's heartbreaking that I can't even potentially see an end to it at the moment. So we'll see how it goes. It's a day by day thing. I can go a couple of days of my normal day routine without noticing too much discomfort and pain, but then there's other times. Woke up this morning because of what I'd done last night at my son's football training, going, oh yeah, that hurts there, and the back of the knee hurts, and so
it's still in early stages, isn't it? Unfortunately, these things just take time, which is frustrating as much as it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
But how did you find the MRI, Jack?
Yeah, it was okay. I was warned. I had one a while ago when I'd hurt myself, falling off a push bike, and did what they thought at the point was brain damage. I must say this was when I was 17, so a while ago. And I haven't had anything like it since. I did have like a small scan and an X-ray when I first did my knee, but there was nothing like the MRI. And everybody was like, "Oh, you've got to, are you claustrophobic? Don't worry about it. It's quite noisy, all that sort of thing." And I got there and I was like, she's like, "Oh, we're only going to put you halfway in because it's only your knee that we need to look at." I was like, "Well, that makes obvious sense. Why didn't I not think about that?" And even the person that booked my MRI, she called up and said, "Oh, have you got any metal in your body?" And I do. I've got a metal ankle and I've got metal in my face when I fell off this push bike. And
like the Terminator, mate.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And she was like, "Oh, gosh, what sort of metal is it?" And I was kind of like, "I don't know. You guys put it in there. Like, I didn't do it myself. It's not like a homemade kit or anything." So she went away for like 10 minutes and put me on hold. And she's like, "Well, it should be fine. They said if your face just gets warm, just press the emergency button." I'm like, "Christ, what have I got to worry about here?" And then when I got there, she's like, "Yeah, we're only going to put you halfway in." I was like, there's that anxiety gone straight away. That's absolutely fine. So
actually, I've had one I come before and I actually quite enjoyed it. Just relaxing, counting
with the headphones
dots.
on.
Counting the dots on the ceiling.
It's really I never realised how hard it is to lay dead still for 15 minutes. That was that really hard bit, like not moving at all. And the noise is quite what's the term?
Unnerving.
Yeah, it is unnerving, but it's almost kind of hypnotic. I could feel myself like it's kind of do and it's almost like a pattern every time. You recognise the pattern really quickly of what noise it's making, and I could easily have fallen asleep, I think. But yeah, it was a very interesting experience.
Oh, well. I think we should probably move away from talking about MRIs.
Knees and pain, yeah. Other than that, Josh, I'm doing well, and I'm bang on it this week with my diet as well, because I have to be.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to jumping on the scales tomorrow. I'm not fearing it. I'm looking forward to it.
Ah, good. That's what we like to hear. Anyway, we'll run into the roundup then for last week. I actually wasn't there last week. First week I missed in.
No, I didn't realise you weren't going to be there.
Time.
I was looking around when I turned up and I couldn't see you.
Thank God.
Well, we'll come to that in
Jordan
a bit.
Was happy.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll come to that in a bit. Maybe you'll have to update me with what you think it is. Anyway.
I'm sure he's.
I don't know what Jordan thinks it is. I've no idea. I swear I've seen every single one, and he was like, but somehow he must have two more than I think he does. So, anyway, on to the roundup then. So, these are the hard yards as such. It's been a great season so far, but this last week, we hit a wall. As a club, we lost just 2.3 kilos this time around, a far cry from a weekly average of 20 kilos or so. Two teams, the Purples and the Blues, each lost more weight than the club as a whole, and two players, Josh Buxton and James Hunt, each managed the same feat, losing more weight than the club as a whole. So a deep dive into the figures offers possible explanations for our dip in form. We didn't put the newly available Eric Ten Hag in charge, so it's not that, but the overall message is that we need to do better. So here are the match results then, firstly. So our Yellows lost 10-6 to the Oranges. The Blacks won a close one, 10-9 against the Whites. The Purples won 14-9 against the Greens. And we had a rare draw. Reds and Blues seeing a 6-all draw. So as I said, a rare draw for the Reds allows the Purples to move 1 point clear at the top of the main league, while the Blacks eased into a 2-point lead on the pitch league, and the Oranges enjoy the same 2-point margin at the top of the scales table. So different people at the top of different tables, always good sign going into the last half of the season. Looking more closely, though, at our disappointing week, there are signs of encouragement. So 45 players lost weight, only very slightly down from our usual showing. Only 2 players were knocked out of last man standing, so leaving us tantalisingly close to the last 15 goal fest, which may come in. In fact, actually, thinking about it, it's this week. If you're in last man standing, you're still in last man standing, you will get a goal. Plus, of course, if you've had a perfect start, I should say, and then plus, if we get down to the last 15, you'll get an extra goal for being within that one as well. So there's a few goals potentially to come. And it's week 9, so those people who've had a perfect start will also get a hat-trick.
Right. So Goals
Hat-trick,
galore.
last man standing goal, and if we get to 15, another goal. So could be 3. I could be wrong, and Steve will probably say I'm wrong here, but it could be 3 goals for any one person who's done that. So,
and also your gladiator, which I'm sure we'll come to on shortly as well.
Yeah. Oh yes, actually, yeah. That's team goals, so it could be a massive goal for us, as you say.
Yeah, exactly.
There were 15 hat-tricks last week as well, so there was quite a few of them. There were some individuals who enjoyed eye-catching personal losses. There are fewer than usual, with a scattering of sizable gains to offset those losses, but anecdotally, several players came through the weigh-in room uttering the phrase half-term and rolling their eyes. So perhaps the change in routine and the need to entertain children threw some of us off. Whatever the reason, we need to get our eye back on the ball and a head back in the game, and our habits back under control. So James Hunt, one of the week's success stories, reached his 10% in double quick time, losing 2.7 kilos to make a total of 11.9, despite only joining the club a couple of weeks into this season.
Wow.
But the star turn this week comes from, I know, right, it's insane. The star, though, of the week, I should say, has been a longer serving member. Gareth Hensby, on Friday, moved into maintenance. So Gareth has now achieved a healthy weight, having lost 9.1 kilos this season alone and 23.4, or just over half a kilo, since joining the club. So it's a phenomenal achievement and one that we've all delighted to celebrate. Generally, it's thrilling.
Absolutely.
I have to admit, I didn't realise Gareth kind of went under the radar a little, I feel. I know his name popped up in Team of the Week a couple of times recently, but he's just obviously having a very, very, very strong season and been very consistent and got his head back into it as such. So
he's smashed it, to be fair.
Where did he find 9 kilos from? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, how much was it overall, Josh? Did you say he's lost?
It's 23.4.
Wow. So yeah, where did he find that from?
Crazy.
It didn't seem like it was. But he's been around. Obviously, I think back to last Christmas, Josh. Obviously, he very kindly his good lady gave us a lift home last Christmas, and so he was definitely there last Christmas. So I'm trying to think of how long he's been. I know he's been on the pod and would have said, but my memory's awful. But that's an amazing achievement, and he should be so proud of himself. Somebody that's been pretty consistent, I think. Would you agree, Josh?
Yeah.
Over a period of time, he tends to always be there. He's Mr. Consistent with a fair amount of chunky losses of weight, and then some consistent lower level weight. But that's what proves to work.
Yeah. So. I hope he doesn't mind me saying. I know he's a keen listener, Gareth. I know you are, so apologies. But I think he would say himself there was a small blip in the middle, like a lot of people have.
Yeah.
You have those a few weeks in a row where you're just struggling, may put a little bit of weight back on, but he's obviously got his head back in it and been very, very consistent, as you say.
Yeah.
So it's what we all want, really, and all want
he's
for
got
him.
Married as well, isn't he? So he's got all sorts of bits and pieces. He's had tough times, high times, everything in between, and he's certainly come out of it having done very well, and I hope he sticks around.
Good.
I hope he does stick around and support the others and help us all get to where he's got to.
Indeed. So it's about time we looked halfway through the season at our top scorer and amazing loser standings. So Gareth Hensby's BMI boost moves him to the top scorers list top of the top scorers list with 12.5 goals. Just half a goal ahead of Matt Waterman, who obviously has had 2 milestones counted on week 1 of this season, and Josh Buxton. So the amazing loser race is even tighter, with James Hunt leaving on 12.16% of his body weight loss this season, closely followed by Matt Waterman at 11.09, Gareth Hensby at 10.31, and Josh Buxton at 9.67. And yourself, Harry, 9.63.
10%'s coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are good figures. Oh, you shouldn't have said that, really.
It doesn't matter. Looking at it as well, if the opportunity to snatch that top scorer is there for people like you, Harry, because a lot of them are either maintenance or players that have maxed out their
potential,
percentage goals this season. So Josh can't get any more this season, can he? His will have to roll over to next season. Matt Young is a maintenance player. Dave's a maintenance player, I'm sure, isn't he? I'm sure Dave is as well. Yeah. Gareth now is. Matt Waterman's maxed out his percentages this season. So there is opportunity for someone to steal a march on those top guys now, because they are topping out as much as they can do, bar a couple of goals, maybe 3 more goals each over the season in that sense. So
yeah. I didn't realize it worked like that. That's interesting.
Yeah, so there's definitely an opportunity to do it. So for your point of view, the people that are in maintenance will get a goal each week that they remain in maintenance.
Okay.
So, but then if you hit your 10% tomorrow, you're then hitting 3. So you've got a 3 week or a 2 week head start on them from this point. So it's worth keeping an eye on. I'll share the link with you to look at the top goal scorer and how to find it, and you can. See, definitely love to see a blue up there for sure.
Save it in my favourites.
I've always said to myself that I would like the amazing loser, because that's a percentage of your body weight. That's quite high, and that's always quite close. That's very close, usually speaking.
Yeah.
And as we should say, by the way, those figures we just mentioned are very good for an end of season, let alone week 8, which just underlines how well we've been doing in spite of this week's kind of misstep, I should say, generally overall. So
You're right involved for the big loser as well, Harry. So keep it going, mate. You're smashing it.
Oh, yeah, I'm firmly set in a routine, which I'm sure we'll get into. So fingers crossed.
Amazing.
Yeah. So your teammate then, lads, Josh Buxton, has returned to Team of the Week in style. After generously taking a week off last time to let someone else have a go, the only player to return his place this time is Ant Skerman, although his brother Connor will probably want to point out that he also features, and in a higher position than that, so we should say. So Josh Buxton leads the Team of the Week with 3.3 kilos. After, what was it last week? What did he say it was last week? Slightly lower, but he wasn't in Team of the Week.
It was less than a kilo last week.
0.7.
It was a tough week for him, and he actually was more worried coming in Friday just gone than he was the week before. So I think it was a catch up. This week, I reckon, is a bit of a catch up of what he'd done. He'd also suffered with a bit of a cold, and
he had some time off as well, didn't he?
So,
yeah, wasn't moving.
Oh, he's still smashing it.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you think of it this way, it's 4 kilos over the last 2 weeks. So if you get it, it was 0.7
Amazing.
or whatever it was, it's 4 kilos. So James Hunt was in second with 2.7 kilos. Connor Skerman with 1.7 kilos. Harry, yourself, made Team of the Week with 1.3 kilos. Oscar Selleck-Pili made it with 1.3 kilos. Tom Marks continues to make the Team of the Week sometimes. Unbelievable. 1.3 kilos. And Ant Skerman rounds off with 1.1 kilos.
So 4 of the 7 there were blues as well. So really good work, boys.
Very good. So we go again. If half term was your undoing, try to re-establish normal routines as soon as possible this week. If not, decide how to take charge, make one positive change and stick to it. So we'll see where it takes you. We've made a great start to the season, so let's not get all Spursy now. I think we can just keep going, really. We've had a
line.
amazing season so far.
I've got the I've got the chat open where obviously we can see where Steve puts that in, and 2 people have laughed at the comment, and everybody else has put hearts and stuff, and it's me and Aid that have laughed at the particularly at the Spursy bit at the end. I thoroughly enjoy that. So I think he's a bit of a crowd pleaser with me because he knows I'll mention it on the pod, like last week with the Arsenal comment and this week on the Spursy comment. I'm quite.
He knows I read it out. Yeah. So he knows whatever he puts in, it's coming on the pod. And if it's Arsenal, Spurs, or something else related, it's always going to go a bit of
The Ten Hag comment was pretty good as well, yeah. All up for grabs now, yeah. I like the Ten Hag one in this one as well. That did make me chuckle at the beginning as well, which is good. So, fair play. Well done, everybody. Yeah. It was a tough week, but there's some incredible bits and pieces going on in amongst it, and I'm sure we're all going to bounce back this week. It's funny how, I don't know what you two think about it, but I think it's funny how it tends to happen in cycles when we all don't do so great and then we all do well. I don't know how you can pin down why that happens. I know a lot of us are in routines, and I believe
there's an element of competition.
Yeah,
I think there's an element of you play up to or you play slightly down to your competition. If you assume that's I think
that's a good point. Yeah.
I think so. I'm not saying that is the case, but
I think that is spot on,
think
Josh, to be honest.
I think there's an element of, if you see other people around you, especially people in your team or friends of yours, close friends of yours, doing really well, it drives you to do better, and in turn you'll probably do better, you know. And sometimes if you see people around you in your team struggling, or equally you might feel like, oh, I can take it off just a little bit, off the gas a little bit. I'm not saying you definitely do. I think that's very subconscious most of the time, but we see it sometimes towards the end of the seasons, don't we? It'll be particular teams who maybe start to struggle with their weight towards the end of the season. They let off slightly because they don't have much to play for in the same way. But it won't just necessarily be one person in the team. It might be several people in the team.
Definitely.
Whereas the other way round, if you're fighting for a title, it might be all people in that team or several people in the team really going for it. I think that's a bit of a, as I say, playing up or playing down slightly to it. So
yeah.
Whilst
you're on the
there are
subject
always
of
some individuals in each team. Sorry, no, I'm just waffling now. But there are always some like individuals in each team who buck a trend, you know. But it's just just a thought.
So whilst we're on the subject of the competition, I think it's worth talking about the Gladiator challenge that you've set for us this week. So is that been inspired by another group? Is that something you've taken some of another league that have done and turned it into how you want it? How does that look?
So I'll be honest, it's almost taken almost word for word from another league. We slightly tweaked it for this one just to be not quite so heavy on the goals and to not influence it too much. And also the number of gladiators per team was based on my assessment of who was in each team's available players for the gladiators thing. So in theory, I could have just said it's a flat out team challenge because everyone attended last week, everyone weighed in well, and we could just go, okay, all 11 of you. But realistically, we know not everyone's going to turn up. It just so happened this week that there was not an off week, but there was a few people who would not be eligible for next week, who might have been, who might feel like they could have done well on the weight, and there was people who did make it last week who don't have loads to shift, so it maybe felt like a bit unfair on those players to feel like they had to try and shift more weight than they ever feel like they could in any 1 week. So that was
timing wise. It's worked out well with a difficult week as an overall for the club. I think it's definitely given not Josh in our team any extra motivation because he literally can do that himself. But there's others that have certainly stepped up and given it some serious thought and wanting to do a little bit extra to make sure that if they're part of that three, they're gonna do some more on it. So I like the challenges. You mentioned about that you've tweaked it and not so many goals. Is there other leagues offering more goals for this sort of thing?
Yeah, I think it's so I'm in it's discussions with other assistant coaches in the southern regions. So quite a lot of those there's 20, 30 clubs represented, and that's where these challenges have kind of spurred from. Some of those leagues are slightly bigger than ours. Some of them are slightly smaller. It just so happens some of the bigger leagues who've got more people to be able to set these challenges are where they've kind of come from. So the goals on offer aren't, I don't know. I think it depends on how much of an incentive, how much of pressure you want to put on people, how much of an incentive you want to put within it. I felt that giving out 3 or 4 goals to the top team plus 2 or 3 to the next best and another one just felt like too many. So it could swing it really heavily, especially after some feedback on our first ones about the weighting of those goals.
It's interesting.
I know this is a different kind of challenge, but I feel like it's a nice thing to add to push people to do well.
Yeah.
But it's not so much so. It's trying to find that balance. It's not so much so that it feels like you're either, in this case, forcing people to be unhealthy in terms of losing weight.
Of course, yeah. There's always that.
Or the whole thing where people feel like it's really unfair on any team because it's a random week and any given week's different, and some people may not be able to make it, as I mentioned, and the number of goals could swing in one favour or the other quite significantly. So in a tight race for the title and that. So I felt this was 2 goals for the winner, 1 goal for the second place team was a happy medium. That's just and how we've consistently done it for the start. So that's how I felt. But again, open to feedback on that and all other challenges. So
is it worth us teasing what we've spoken about as a non-goal challenge that we're thinking about doing in the new year?
I say
there's something bubbling along,
yeah.
isn't there?
Yeah, there's something that came off the back of last week's pod, which I'm afraid I missed.
Yes.
Wasn't it really? So there are a couple of things we're looking into. It depends how much you want to talk about. I'm definitely very keen.
I think so. What Colin had inspired us from last week's pod is the WWF belts, basically the fact that the guys got proper involved and were desperate to get their names on these the WWF belts. So we're thinking about, obviously with Steve's approval, but running it separately from it as a total full season long competition about seeing who can get their names on some sort of trophy, some sort of belt, maybe something like that. It's something that me and Josh had spoken about very briefly, and hoping to do something from January, because that's basically when the next season starts, isn't it? The first week back is right into it, and we want to give you guys as much motivation as you can get for it.
I think basically there's a couple of things we're thinking of that maybe outside of any tangible goal benefit from the challenges would still be incentivizing for the group in almost more of a slightly more playful way.
Yeah.
And this WWE, I should say, rather than if we've got quite a few people in the group, will probably bring you up on that, Jack.
Oh god, yeah. See, that's how long ago. That's the last time I watched
not
it.
In the 90s,
WWF,
Jack.
mate. I know.
Come
I know.
on.
That was honestly the last time I watched it, when it was called WWF.
So those WWE belts kind of thing, inspired by Colin from last week, is something we quite like, isn't it? Really,
as from the car park to the cages with a little theme song on. Yeah,
theme song on. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
the crowd chanting,
blaring out the back of somebody's car. Liam's probably got a great big sub and speakers in the back of his little boy racer car. We can use his.
Yeah. So and maybe I'm not saying we want to go too heavy on these kind of things, but maybe something that isn't tangibly linked to the goals, but it will still be a nice incentive, and I say quite fun for the league in general to feel like they can come on. It might not be for everyone, but if it's for a few people, then it's a benefit, you know.
It may very well be a little sponsored by Lose to Win podcast kind of thing, where we'll talk about it each week on here, or give an update on it each week here, get the winner on here at the end of it, that sort of thing. I think no goals involved, just a bit of friendly rivalry amongst some fat blokes that would that want to win something. So we'll give it a go.
Really. Yeah. Anyway, just the last thing to say, for in terms of this week's challenge, just best of luck to the gladiators involved. 3 from each team across all 8 teams. It's a straight shootout, straight weight loss challenge. So
yes,
as long as you can do it healthily without killing yourself, please. Best of luck, really.
Definitely.
See how we do. Be interesting to see. It's the one challenge though that I won't be able to give you the results for before Steve puts out the result, if that makes sense.
No, of course, you need to know who's lost what. So, we'll certainly because we're up against we are playing the Purples on Friday night, so I'm sure we'll have a chat with them and see how they've done, and there's no reason to hide it from anybody about what numbers people have done. It'll be quite interesting to see. People have said, I've lost this much, or our gladiators lost this much, and then we'll see what actually comes out when Josh reveals the results on Saturday morning, I guess similar time to when Steve's going to send his email out. And exciting time. So I think it's a great little incentive, mate. And from my perspective, the reason why I asked about the more goals is that I personally, for me, I would like to have seen more goals maybe, but that's just my preference. I would, even if it was 3 to the first place, 2 to the second place, 1 to the third place. Get it right. First gets 3, second gets 2, last or third gets 1, and then everybody else doesn't get anything. Even something like that. But amazing, mate, and I love the effort, and the artwork and everything on it is pretty cool as well. So very good, mate.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. But we'll see. As I say, all feedback's welcome. So thank you, and maybe it's something we can consider next season if this is the way to go. So.
Yeah, sick.
Anyway, I think we should probably move on because we do have a guest, and he has chipped in a few times. But we have a limited amount of time, unfortunately, because of when we're recording. So let's probably should just get into it.
No one wants
Jack,
to hear
over
too
to
much
you,
from
mate.
me.
No, don't
worry.
be silly. I'll stop talking. You go. So H, thanks for coming on, mate. It's not H from Steps, before anybody asks. He did reference that in a chat just before. It's very clearly not H from Steps. So Harry, you've obviously listened to the pod a few times. You're relatively new to the league. You started in August, I think. Did you say?
Yeah, right at the end of August.
Right. Okay. So basically the end of the summer holidays, kind of.
That's it.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
Business time.
Exactly. Yeah. run up to Christmas. So, what we do on the pod is we do a few icebreakers, learn a little bit about you, then we'll get stuck into why you've joined. Did you join from a recommendation, that sort of thing, and find out how your journey's going. You're probably one of the first people we've had on that is a relatively new member, so it's quite a good perspective from your point of view to get some feedback about how you think it's going, what you think of the group. Was it what you expected, that sort of thing, and it's all pretty fresh. So if we get stuck in first with the icebreaker so people can learn a little bit about you. So first things first, who do you support?
See, I know we were having a laugh before we started recording about this big monologue I had about the best team in red in England, all of this stuff, but we kind of let it slip, didn't we, to Josh?
We did.
It's not Man United, it's the Arsenal.
The Arsenal.
For God's sake, Jesus Christ. Jack, seriously, what are you doing?
I did not even arrange this one, mate. You arranged this guest, so I'm taking absolutely no blame.
Mate, yeah, but he could have told me beforehand. And we don't have to sit there and...
I had a little chuckle when you said who it was. I was like, brilliant, that's another gooner on the pod.
Josh,
Awful
why don't you tell everyone what you said about what did I sound like, an Arsenal fan or something you said?
Oh, no, basically, it was that I had guessed you might have been an Arsenal fan, but I didn't know because of something you said a couple of weeks ago by the side of the pitch. But I don't know what it was.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I just can't think of what it was. I think you might have said something to Jack or something on the sideline, or Dave or someone else who's an Arsenal fan, and I just thought, okay.
There's a few of us.
Yeah. The numbers are piling up now.
There's far too many fans of London clubs on the south coast. It's silly. It's not even just Arsenal.
Bournemouth have been shit for so long, mate. It's only their fault. They've only got themselves to blame.
That's it.
Anyway, mate, you're an Arsenal fan. So
who's your favourite current or past player, Harry?
Oh, it's got to be Thierry Henry.
Yes.
There's no questions. Or Vieira, they're close, but that like golden age was, the nostalgia is just too much.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And in terms of a standout moment for either Thierry Henry or for the reason that you fell in love with the Arsenal, what strikes you as your standout moment, do you think?
So my dad was born in Lambeth, so he's not from the south, Josh. All right, before we start getting
but that's your dad, mate.
I
can't use that argument. I can't.
It's in my blood, Josh. It's in my blood. No, it's not really. So yeah, he supported Arsenal, which is the reason I did. And then when I was growing up, early 2000s, I was still pretty young. I'm a little bit younger than you two, and that was when we had the Invincible season, all of the good stuff. I mean, we're doing okay now. But when I was a little bit younger, we were, top.
Absolutely brilliant.
Standout moment, Jack.
Oh, God, yes, please, yeah.
It's got to be. Do you remember when Henry scored at the Bernabeu in that Champions League run?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm trying to do on a Friday night.
He took the piss that night as well, didn't he? There's always a clip where he skips an absolute chopping tackle from someone. And just literally just walks it to the corner and kicks it off him, doesn't he? It's just so cool and calm. He's just an outstanding player. I think I might have mentioned a couple of weeks ago. I just caught that Sky Sports was showing Thierry Henry's top 100 goals or PL 100 or whatever, and just showing all of his Premier League goals. And my son came in, and he's obviously an Arsenal fan. He sat down and started watching, and he was like, you've always said he was good. I didn't realise he was this good. And I loved watching those moments again with him, because they were the first time he was watching him. I was like pausing it, going, this is how important that game was at this point, and this is the rivalry between that team and that player. And that person that you see on TV now or on FIFA is one of the icons. That's who they played for, and things like that. So
he's probably thinking, what's happened to football, Dad?
Yeah, what's happened to the TV?
What went wrong? Yeah.
What's going on with I can't see anything. It's all blurry. It's proper nostalgic. And
how many out of those 100 were against United then? Probably a fair few, wouldn't it?
Fair few, yeah. The special ones as well. That one that he flicked up and
volleyed over,
slammed over Barthez was pretty special. That was right up there for me. So amazing, mate. And it is good to have another Gooner on, even though times are pretty tough at the moment. But everything in football happens.
We're short of time, Jack, so we should probably
tough in comparison to what we're used to. I think we've been spoiled over the last couple of
that's true.
Couple of seasons. So it could be a lot worse. You could be Manchester United. Although I do like the look of your new manager, which I'm sure we might.
Even they don't have it tough, do they? Really? Come on.
No.
Just. It's just
in
not
comparison
30
to
years of constant success, and no one has any divine right to do that.
No.
So
unless you've got 115 charges, you don't have any divine right to do anything. So we'll leave that where that lays. So moving into Man v Fat side of things. So we've obviously mentioned that you start at the end of August. How have you found it so far?
Yeah, it's, to be honest, I've put my mind to losing weight for so long, and it's always been one of those, on this day or the next day kind of thing. I've never really broken through with any solid progress until now. So I'm buzzing. I mean, what are we now? We're kind of going into the middle of November, and I'm comfortable with what I'm doing. I'm looking forward to the Fridays, feeling responsible with what I'm putting into my body. I don't want to let the blues down, basically. And I think it's probably more subconscious than conscious how I found the way that Man v Fat's kind of had that effect, because I'm not thinking every day like, oh yeah, football on Friday, better not do that. It's kind of just settled into my routine and just become a part of day-to-day things. So for me, it's been very, very smooth in that sense. There's always stuff going on. It's been a really good experience the first few months. I must admit.
So you had a little bit of exposure to some of the members from doing the Tuesday night AFC Bournemouth stuff anyway, hadn't you? So
that's it.
I think a lot of us knew you from that anyway before, and was it Ryan that finally persuaded you to join up, or
Ryan, I've known Ryan for probably 10 years now, which is crazy, really, considering we both still act like kids. But he mentioned it a few times. Obviously, I think he's been coming for a couple years, maybe 3 years now.
Yeah.
And for me, it was, I don't know, at the time I got back into football. Ryan, he plays all the time, doesn't he, as you know, and he kind of got me into a couple of things. And as I started getting more football under my belt, I tore my meniscus at Littledown, and it was a real setback. And mentally, I was just in the dumps. Like it was bad, because I was really excited. And as you know, Jack, with everything you're going through, it's a nightmare, isn't it? So I couldn't have the surgery or anything because of my weight, and it's like a double whammy of just recovery and not being able to do anything and working from home, and it's just you know what it's like. And when I kind of got a bit better, I just didn't want to travel to another football and kind of go through that whole thing of making it worse. So I put it off for a long time. And then when I was able to go again, I moved over Pool Way, and I thought, it's a bit far now, more excuses. And then I don't know what it was. At the end of August, I just, those moments where you just go, F it. I won't full on swear, but No,
No, you're welcome to.
Oh no, I'm not. I'm not a bad boy like that. But yeah, I just thought I'll just go for it. I signed up on the night, like kind of no going back, and I think Steve texted me the next day, and it was on sort of like a Wednesday. Are you ready to go in on Friday? So it was all really quick, and it was kind of like you can't really do anything now. And I felt good playing on the Tuesday nights, and that first Friday. I was going to say F me then, because it was very difficult that first Friday. It really it took me by surprise the first week, because I thought I've been playing, for a few months. I feel pretty good, and it was hard. It was really hard. I had a nice introduction to Gareth the first week.
Yes, you did. I remember. Yeah.
But we're all made up now. We're good friends. But no, I am. Without being, I don't want this to come across in a negative way at all, because my intention isn't for it to be negative, but I was surprised at kind of the level on the pitch and the competitiveness on the pitch on that first week and second week. And you kind of like slowly get into it, just because, I thought Man v Fat, it's going to be relaxed. People aren't going to be able to run about loads, but it's kind of like that perfect mix of people who are at the end of their journey, people who are starting, and people in the middle, and you get to see a bit of everything. And you might one week have a really hard game because you're playing against Gareth, for example, and he's just running past you and tackling you, etc. And then you might have another week where you're playing someone similar as yourself in ability and size, and you kind of work your way in. So that was surprising, but ultimately, if it was just not great, you wouldn't be progressing, or you wouldn't have anything to kind of work towards, would you, Nick? It takes you back to your point earlier on, Josh, about rising to your competition or lowering yourself to it. And I think it's just a good thing overall to have those tough weeks on the pitch and off the pitch. So it goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my takeaway from the first 3 months.
Yeah, really well said, mate. Actually, yeah, I think you've said some real sensible bits there, and you are absolutely not the only one that comes into the league and thinks, "Cool, this is the standards a little bit better than I expected." And again, it's absolutely no kind of derogatory meaning about it. But if you say, like, somebody like yourself that clearly has played football before and is more than capable of playing football, I remember when I first joined, as an example, when I first joined, and when it first started and we were down Merritt Park, I really didn't know what to expect. And Bill was there, and Bill was running rings around all of us. And I was thinking, fucking hell. If it
he still does that now, mate.
Exactly. Yeah, he's not changed. It ain't changed.
You're not the one that has to face that tomorrow night, Jack.
That's a good point. I forgot about that. So that feeling is absolutely, it's been the same for 3 years now, almost 3.5 years for everybody that's come into the league, and it's only getting stronger and it's only getting better, which is a credit to the league as well. I think that helps when it's competitive off the pitch, it's competitive on the pitch, because everybody, once you get a grasp of knowing how you can win games and what you need to do off the pitch to make sure that you stand a good chance by the time you finished your 30-minute game, it really helps. It's just such, and we say it every time, but it's such a good thing that we're all able to do and get stuck in and involved with. It's changed my life entirely, even down to things like this. It's not something I'd ever thought I'd be doing, chatting to you guys, and the friendships and relationships we've all built from it is so good, mate. So
yeah, it's definitely more than just a Friday night, isn't it? 100%.
Yeah. It's a bit of a brotherhood about it, I think.
And again, if I'm honest, like, I don't mind saying this because everyone has their kind of, they're dubious about all sorts of things. But I didn't know at the beginning. I was like, is this a bit cheesy? Like the kind of group chats and all of that. I didn't know what to make of it. But once you settle in and you kind of get into the swing of things and you embrace it, it's way more than that, like you say. And
yeah,
I can see why it's worked for so many people, because it's just such a, it's not going to change your life without you working hard, obviously, but it's good support for those that need it. And, people in our situations tend to be a bit low, mentally and everything as well. So it's a win-win for all sorts.
Yeah.
I think sometimes there's a reluctance to admit
Yeah.
and this is just a generalization. I admit this is not always the case. That when you join these kind of things, and it's a reluctance to get into just how wholesome it is, because I think there's an element of almost perceived softness about being wholesome and being generally really supportive to people around you in a really strange way. I'm not saying that's always the case, but then
especially
you've got that
with football,
dichotomy.
isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you've got the dichotomy of playing actual football competitive on the football. So it's a weird way. But especially as you were saying about like group chats and that, and I think sometimes there's so much encouragement from people, which sometimes I don't think some new players, not all, but probably don't quite expect when you come in, and are not quite sure what to make of it, because maybe it's something that they've not often had in their lives.
Yeah, it can be
To
overwhelming.
be brutally
can't
honest, yeah, to be brutally honest, it's not something many have often had in their lives at that stage. So, but I think when people embrace that and get into it, and I certainly had to do a little bit of adjustment, it's magnificent, and that's what keeps people here, and I think that's why it works.
Yeah.
You know,
how much had
So-
Ryan kind of given you an idea of what it was all about before you joined, Harry?
Do you know, I was thinking this when I was describing it, because once you've kind of been in and you're in the know, you kind of forget how it first came about. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But
Yeah.
he gave me the breakdown of the way in and the format of the league and how it works. But that was about it, really. He didn't go, really in detail. And I mean, from our side, it was Rob and obviously Luke, when just before he left, that was kind of my first week in.
Yeah.
So I think him and Rob were kind of heading the Blues, and we got in the group chat, and it kind of just all was explained from there alongside Steve. So, but yeah, the process was really easy getting in. Great timing for me, because I hear it's quite busy now, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a wait list,
yeah.
I think. So,
it's
So
full.
yeah,
amazing.
hopefully those guys get their turn at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
Can I ask you? It's a question we've sometimes glossed over in the past. What's your, if you don't mind asking, you don't have to answer, but have you got any particular history with weight? What's your history with weight before you came into league? Is it something you've always struggled with? Is it something you've just recently gained and you need to lose? Is it,
I mean, not really. When I was a kid, I was super skinny. I was playing football 5 or 6 times a week for some like good teams, especially coming up to like 18. But as soon as I started working, that's when you get a bit of money, you just buy your own food, you're not as active, and it just all started from then. And it doesn't take long, does it? Let's be honest. It's a year of a bad diet and not much exercise, and those pounds are piling on. And I've struggled to get it off since then. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, because I know a lot of people kind of, you get chubby growing up, and then you kind of go through, to a young adult, and you kind of carry it all through. But I was kind of the opposite of that. I kind of was really fit and healthy, playing a lot of football, and then as I kind of migrated towards work, it just all went downhill. And Ryan will tell you that, because I started working with him, and he probably saw my face get chubbier and chubbier as the years went on. And hopefully now it's going the other way. So
it's funny because that sounds quite familiar, because that's very something I had. Played a lot of football, skinny up until is in my late teens, maybe early 20s even, and then just sat behind a desk working. My focus, your focus shifts in life, your priorities change.
1,000,000%. Yeah.
As you need to do adulting, and that's just not something you're used to.
No.
And the food and what you eat and how you exercise is often the first thing you change rather than the last thing. So rather than trying to prioritize things around that to keep yourself healthy and active, you change the health and your activity and what you're eating to accommodate other things in your life that you didn't often have. So yeah, I mean, I've been there. Many, I'm sure, in the league have. Everyone has. So to a degree. So I was just curious, mate, what your history was, whether you'd, as you say, only takes 1 year or so, doesn't it, of bad eating, and then you keep it on. So for a while,
unfortunately,
you can do. So
You mentioned adulting, Josh. Obviously, you'd had a relatively large life-changing moment leading up to joining Man v Fat. In terms of having your first child, I think you mentioned earlier that
I was hoping you
about
would
a month
say that
before.
I could make up some funny, life-changing moment, like I got a new car or something, No, yeah, I am. Oh no, my missus was fuming with me because the whole time she was pregnant, she was like, "Come on, you can start doing this now." As soon as the boy popped out, I was like, "I'm going to do this now." I waited the whole time.
It might have been that moment that pushed you, mate. Like, joking
it
aside, I
was.
think it may very well have been that you suddenly have something else to be about for in your health.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cliche, isn't it, mate? But you know what it's like. We were talking before
So
when
true.
you had your little ones. Like,
yeah,
it's not. It sounds cliche, but then when you're on your knees on the floor and you're sweating or out of breath and you're thinking, you actually have that moment of this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I joined because I knew that was going to happen because I was putting together all the baby stuff and all of that, and so I joined like the week before he was born, because I just knew that what was coming, if that makes sense. I knew that's how I was going to feel. So yeah, I mean, everyone's got their own motivation, and like I said to you, I've always been a maybe man on the weight loss, and for some reason this time round it's just kind of fell into place, and I'm just looking to continue it. And I must admit, I wanted to touch on kind of what I found useful. And I mean, I'm only 3 months in, so these are early days. But
it's all useful, yeah.
It's funny, I am because my brother's he's joined Yeovil Man v Fat now. I've also got a friend that's joined Southampton Man v Fat, so I'm just a recruiter at this point, I think.
Yes.
For Man v Fat, but my brother forwarded on an article about someone up north, Man v Fat, kind of had a great success with ready meals and using them as an easy way to track calories. And it's exactly what I've been doing since I joined, basically. So I just have the bog standard Tesco ready meals. I know Josh on our team, he gets some of like the Aldi stuff, and you can buy them anyway, can't you? Just the microwave meals. And it kind of takes all the stress out of worrying about what you're going to have, or do I have to separate this from this, etc., etc. People might not find it sustainable forever, but I've not really felt like I've been dying, if that makes sense, because I'm having 3 good meals a day and then drinking, water. I might have like a sugar-free drink here and there, but that's really been it for me. I think if I was still trying to meal prep myself, I don't think I would have had as much success, if any. So for those struggling, if you've not tried to just kind of keep it as simple as that, I would definitely recommend trying to do that and just keeping an easy calorie count, basically.
That's a great shout, because there are some calorie controlled ones out there, but if you like you, I presume you're not going for necessarily the branded calorie control ones. No. You just know what the calories are, and that's it. You know that you're not going for the mac and cheese every night. Do you know what I mean? You're going for something sensible.
They've got loads of stuff, mate. Like you're not starving yourself. Let's put it that way. I know there's others that will have stricter calorie counts, but for us lads that need around 2,000, perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also a really good kickstart into it as well, if you can get yourself disciplined with that. And then what I think will happen is you'll grow with confidence, and you go, right, maybe I've got a bit sick of that particular meal now. I'll see what else is out there. Or actually, if I could just go looking at how much I'm spending on that, and I could make that myself. I could probably do that myself, and know that if I'm having something similar to it, my ingredients are probably going to be fresher and better ingredients. I might even save a couple more calories by doing it myself and enjoying that process of making it yourself as well. Exactly. It makes a lot of sense, mate. And Josh, you're right. Josh shops around. He's tried all sorts, hasn't he? He sends them into the groups. Like, this one wasn't so great, but this one was amazing. I really like this one, and it's a great shout, mate. It's really, really good advice.
Yeah. And then, just as a side note to that, and I will be quick on this one because I know we're running out of time, but
it's all good.
The main thing I think for me as well is I use like a calorie counter online. So you put your weight in, your height, your age, all the usual stuff, and it'll tell you, with little to no exercise, you need to eat this many calories per day to maintain your weight. You need to eat this many to lose 0.5 kilogram a week. And then straight away, you've got like a goal that you can just keep and update. And you just keep going with it.
Our league use apps. So, My Fitness Pal or Fat Secret or something like that to track
That's it.
those things. And they often come with that kind of BMR calculator anyway. So and they do it based off that. So you can kind of tell where you are under or above the line kind of thing.
That's it. Because I don't
so
think
they're
people
always useful.
utilize. Yeah, I don't. Obviously, like people probably do, but I think a large number of people probably don't utilize those kind of apps to their full potential. And you kind of trying to just not make it up as you go, but you try and piece it together as you go. And yeah, some of them are really good. So, but yeah, that's it for me.
The ready meal angle as well, though, it's a time saver as well, I would assume.
Oh yeah.
As much as it is a calorie saver, it's a time saver. And I
just want to make it easy, don't you, to begin with?
Yeah,
and then
it's easy, isn't it? Really, and to be as you say, making it easy to begin with, and then over time you can potentially think, okay, I've got a bit more time to consider doing this myself, as Jack was saying, versus having it, having your carbonara in your thing. Maybe you can make one, so that kind of thing. So, yeah, amazing, mate, amazing. So, what have you actually lost so far? Then, I'm not sure if we said this. Do you know where you are at the moment?
Yeah, so I had the emails up. So I weighed in to begin with at 133 kilos, and then last week I'm now down to 120 kilos.
Wow,
so,
nice.
Yeah, 13.
Nice. 2 stone then. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a nice
quick conversion. And then hopefully this week we hit a magic number.
Yes, mate.
yeah.
Well deserved as well, which is in quick time as well. If you think about it, there's certainly I know I've never got to that 10%. It's taken me a lot to get close to it, and you've done so well, mate. And it's the start of big things as well. And you've been very honest on here and given some really good insight into it, mate. So thank you so much.
No problem. Yeah. And for those clever clogs that will say that's already 10% because it's 13, I missed out 0.1 and 2 here and there. So.
Yeah. Good point.
Not quite. Yeah. I was going to say point. It's around 13 kilos.
That's it.
Yeah. Very close to that magic number.
Oh, yeah. Very good, mate. I know we've got a limited amount of time, and I know there's a little bit of other discussion you might want to come to, but I did want to ask if there was any particular struggles you still, or anything you still struggle with, you find, or so far have you found it relatively clean? Like
Halloween was a struggle. My lord. Yeah, that sweet bell sat on the top of the side there. I think the ready meal stuff, happy days, food sorted, so that's kind of job done with that for now. It's mainly the exercise, and especially when you've been out for a while, and like we've touched on with the injuries and all of that, it's just trying to keep your body going and feeling good to try and get in what you want week by week. I think that's the biggest struggle, and just knowing what's enough's enough. And if you're not feeling great, then it's not worth pushing it, because you're just going to set yourself back ultimately further than you need to. So I think that's what I've struggled with, because I just want to go for it. So yeah, I've had to take off like one night of football week now, so I'm just down to. I was doing 4, now I'm down to 3, and then I think I'm at a good kind of pace now. So that was the biggest thing, to just actually say, you need to just go steady.
You try to space it out as well. I found doing it so often, I needed to space it. Okay, so I'm doing Thursday, Friday, to be fair. So it's not one, but then the next one after that is a Tuesday, and it's like, it's decent spacing. So I feel like I can recover a little bit.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
yeah. I think
especially with our guys with our size,
you've got to take it easy, haven't you?
Yeah. Exactly.
And like Harry's mentioned, I'm sure the injury set you back and was difficult. But I think in my scenario, I'm certain I wouldn't have done the injury I've done if I was as heavy as I am. I think that plays a massive part. My knees take a lot of stress, and when I was playing football that particular week, I'd played. Running up to it, the Tuesday, the Thursday, the Sunday, then Tuesday again, and then it was the Thursday night that it happened. And I think I'd probably done too much. And I know me and Ben joke about the amount, or the little amount that I move around on the pitch. It still is probably overdoing it. And I tend to go for, I don't know if either of you noticed, but I tend to go for the big Hollywood passes, and I think that probably puts quite a bit of strain on my left leg, on my left foot.
Hollywood passes, Jack. I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking
no one's
about.
ever noticed, mate. No, I have no idea.
And I think that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. So you're bang on. You just just got to take it easy. If I could give any advice on it, is just it
Yeah.
isn't the be all and end all. Come off that pitch if you're starting to feel tired. Come off for a quick break. All of us
That's
now
it.
have subs. All of us now have no excuse to go, oh, I've got to carry on because of this. Yeah, that's not the important part of this. The important part is getting yourself fitter and healthier, and
Yeah.
crocking yourself sets you back.
I know we do quite a lot on Tuesdays and Thursdays to try and get as much time as possible on the pitch. You know, we kick the team off as soon as it goes past, and we're there until the lights are off, etc. And sometimes it's on the dot. Sometimes we get an extra minute or two, and we're really keen to kick the ball in the air as soon as we get on the pitch. No one's really stretched or done anything particularly unless they've done it on the sideline, and that's up to them. But sometimes I think to myself, it might be of benefit just to add a break, a minute in the middle, just a minute break or something, almost like a half time.
Yeah.
Just and I'm not saying it would make everyone agree to it. It's agree to it, but it's just a case of everyone just takes a 2-minute break. Keep warm, obviously, like you don't move a little bit, but not stand still, but just get your breath back and relax a little bit. I'm not saying that's going to take any serious edge off because he's still playing for an hour, but it was just a thought I've had literally just this minute, so it's not.
It's a great shout, mate. It might keep you out of that little red zone. I know it's again a joke, and they say about athletes being in that danger zone, that red zone when they've done too much. Obviously, our red zone is going to be a lot lower than their red zone, but there's absolutely still a thing. I think if you've done too much, and everybody's going to be different. Mine is definitely going to be different to Robbo's, for an example. So he could carry on and fly through it. But if you think about, if you go for the person, you go as slowly as the slowest person in the group, and that would probably be the safer way of doing it. So I completely agree. It's a great idea, actually, Josh, and
just giving people a chance to drink some fluids and not. You know, as they probably should. You know, you're running around for an hour, you're sweating quite a lot. You probably should drink a little bit in the middle.
Yeah.
You know, just a thought. Even if you're a professional footballer, you don't go more than 45 minutes or so before you have to take a break. And
no, definitely, exactly.
Just a thought. And half the time they're getting tactics and drinking on the sideline anyway because the keeper's gone down.
Yeah.
So
get their little energy pouches, don't they?
David Raya-esque.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of Arsenal, then last 5 minutes, I did have a question. We'll come back to some of the Ten Hag stuff next week, and when it's an international break anyway. So there'll be the week after because we're in a week behind, but we can come back to that another time. But in terms of the big news for Arsenal, I saw recently is that Edu, your chap, don't know if he's technical director, is leaving. I don't know if it's immediate or if he's left already. Is it immediate?
Yeah, it's done.
So I just wanted to ask your opinion in the last 5 minutes whether you guys thought it was going to, if it's the start of something, a problem, if it's just a random exit, or if you think it's going to have a big effect or not. What do you reckon?
It was surprising, Jack, wasn't it?
Very surprising, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of these ones that it's, again, a little bit cliche, but time will definitely tell. I think they need a non-controversial, out of the public eye next position, because of Edu did such a good job, in my opinion anyway. I think he did such a good job and has been integral in bringing us forward and really getting hold of it and getting some money out of the Cronkies to actually spend. I think we need somebody that is going to be able to do that, but isn't somebody. I've heard Wenger being suggested for it, and I think that would be the single worst idea possible. I think it's somebody that's got experience in it. Maybe nick somebody from somewhere else. You see United do it with Dan Ashworth. You see other teams do it. We've got very, very rich owners with deep pockets. I appreciate PSR does come involved in terms of this as an outlay for the club. It's same as buying somebody on a transfer. I just think they should go out and really push for the best in class, best they possibly can to really take us on again, which is going to be hard. And I don't attribute the current form to what's happened with Edu. I attribute that to players massively underperforming and missing integral players like Martin Odegaard. But you've got to be very careful it doesn't continue to spiral. And if there's a breakdown in that background behind Arteta, we all know that off the pitch, sadly, does have quite a big impact to what's going on the pitch. So that's my point. What were your thoughts, Harry?
Yeah, I'm a bit conflicted because I've seen there's some stuff about him going to Forest, isn't there, as well?
I think he is. I think it's agreed. Yeah.
Which
and
hurts me.
Olympiacos. So the guy is the same owner, isn't it? Forest
Of course,
Olympiacos,
yeah.
is that correct?
And I hate Nottingham Forest. And sorry to any fans that listen to this podcast. I don't know what it is. Maybe because every time I go in the new end, it's very quiet over at the stadium there. No, I'm only messing.
Yeah.
But he's made some great signings, hasn't he? You know, he's beat some top teams to get some top players for Arsenal. I think the big question mark is the lack of a striker that we've had for so long, and that's sometimes I think if we had a striker, we could have grabbed the title in the last couple of years. I know defensively sometimes we've given teams wins, but that's the question mark for me. We've got all these good players, Saliba quality, Rice quality, signed Saka to a new deal, didn't he? Happy days, but we've just not found that number 9, have we? And I know they're the hardest to come by, but when you're a club like Arsenal, you've got to get there.
Someone was saying I say someone. I was watching Jamie Carragher, of all people, to be fair, discussing this. You would have seen it if you watch Monday Night Football, talking about how they've changed your recruiting. You've changed your recruiting policy over the last season or two compared to the first couple. So you've gone from getting players like Zinchenko, who are quite technically good players but aren't like physically dominant, to getting more physically dominant players. And slightly less doesn't make sense, and that's what got you closer, I'd say. So you've now got your Saliba and Gabriels and people like that who just like seriously dominant.
Well, and even
I know you had them, but
the fullbacks are big boys now, aren't they?
Havertz is like 6'4" or something, 6'3", isn't he? People like that. I know he's not traditional number 9, but as you say, you're now playing 4 basically centre backs most of the time.
Yeah, that's it.
And you've got, I don't know, but you've become slightly more direct as a team as well.
Yeah, a lot less,
and a little less passing in your own half, and a little more keepers kicking it slightly longer on average.
I think that's where the gaping hole of Odegaard misses, because somebody of his technical ability balances out that. If you think about a midfield of Rice, Partey, and Moreno, they're all big boys, but they're not creative at all, really. I think Rice is good at driving forward, but I don't think he's overly good as that. He can hit a fantastic crossfield pass, but I don't think he finds that eye of the needle, magic moment pocket pass. He doesn't receive the ball in the pocket, doesn't turn with it in the pocket, and that's, unfortunately, we get little glimpses of Ethan Nwaneri now and then, and he's the next on that production line of really good players to come out of, potential really good players to come out of Hale End. But for the time being, we've let people like Fabio Vieira go. We let Smith Rowe go, that could easily have done, well, definitely Smith Rowe could easily have done what Odegaard could do with the right amount of time and support and staying fit. He was a world beater at one point. It's tough. It is a tough pill to swallow, and I think what Edu and Arteta have done have addressed some really important positions in the team that have got us this far. But that number 9 has to be the next step.
Yeah.
Whether they thought Jesus was going to be good enough, he's as good as gone. I think, in my opinion, I think he's well on his way to Saudi. It might even happen in January. I think his next move is Saudi, and I think they need to go and break the bank for that. Somebody like that. Gorkarez, is it Gorkarez from Sporting?
He might go with his manager though, might he?
Yeah, there may very well be that. Yeah, and if he does, then
for 100
that makes sense. But if you're willing to spend 100 mil on Declan Rice, and don't get me wrong, Declan Rice definitely moved us up in the right direction and stepped us up, and we beat City to him. So it gives you an idea of the standard that they and how high they hold him. But if we just need that next.
Yeah,
it's now time for that next step.
Yeah. Okay. Fortunately, we've run out of time, or pretty much run out of time. I would just ask you just a very quick question. Why would he leave? Considering how close you are and how much he's done for the club, why would he leave to go to Forest or Olympiacos? Is it just money?
Don't
just a
forget,
new
it's
challenge?
not just Forest, though,
It's
is
like-
it? He's now
No.
sporting director of 4 teams.
So yeah, as I'm saying, is it yeah? So is it a promotion essentially? Is that why you think he's gone, or
It has
just
to
for
be
me
money.
it just seemed? I was going to say, so he just for me it seems like why would he not wait another season or two? you know?
Yeah, he may have felt that he's reached as far as he can go with
Yeah.
Arsenal, and sometimes if you can stay too long, can't you? And he is. Why leave when things are bad? Why not leave when you've got them into a very good place? And Edu's stock isn't any higher than it's ever been. And he may as well strike while the iron's hot. And I don't begrudge him for moving. And it's on to the next one. The important thing is the players on the pitch right now and getting it right.
Yeah, fair enough.
What do you think,
Okay.
Harry?
Yeah, you changed my mind a little bit because I just said money straight away, but it's a fine balance, isn't it? He's probably thinking of his long term, and he's got a lot of stuff to get involved with. Probably keep him busy.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough.
Hey,
shame though.
On that note, we must let Josh go because he's got Thursday night football to get to. So thank you very much for joining us, mate. It's been a real pleasure. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep banging in the goals. Every goal. Don't forget every goal that Jordan scores is attributed to you anyway. And we'll see you all tomorrow night, which will be Friday night. So thank you very much. Cheers, Josh. Enjoy your football. Harry, look after yourself. Thanks for listening, guys. And
have a good one, guys. Cheers.
Cheerio.